Hello! So today I wanted to show you guys how and why you should use solar dye on your t-shirts. Today I will be using Jacquard Solar Fast dye in order to soak it on one side of the t-shirt, expose it to sunlight, and a printed on transparency sheet in order to create an image printed on the t-shirt underneath with really minimal effort and materials. So I don't particularly think of this method as popular, which is because I don't see a lot of videos out there on the internet about it. And I really think that's a shame because this method is really easy to use. It's not as risky as using bleach. It doesn't even destroy fibers and clothing like bleach, leaving the t-shirts, if you use one, to really retain its soft texture and integrity. In addition, one of its unique traits is that using sun exposure to be able to produce images on the t-shirts opens for minimal effort and materials needed, with amazing results in comparison to the cost and commitment to using iron-on vinyls or even like screen printing materials. So here's a photograph I took of all of the materials that you will need in order to accomplish this project. You might have noticed that I photoshopped a picture of rubber bands in there simply because I forgot to leave them in there, but we will need those too. I will go over these materials one by one. So you will only need one or two of these printable transparency sheets to be stuck in the printer. I found a pack of them online for relatively cheap, maybe around like $16 to $17 on Amazon. It's a great investment because you could reuse these over and over again for your projects in case you wanted to reprint the designs. You will need a piece of cardboard and a panel of glass in order to help straighten out your print. I cut my piece of cardboard into the size 8x10 in order for it to closely align with the size of the transparency sheets that I got that I will be printing out my designs on. Same goes for the panel of glass. I really bought like a sized 8x10 picture frame, and I removed the glass panel, and so that works perfectly fine as well. The real star of this project will be the Jacquard Solar Fast dye. I got mine in the color black just because I prefer to wear a lot of grayscale monochrome clothing within my wardrobe, and it is also highly recommended that you get the Solar Fast wash in order to make sure that all of the undeveloped dye leaves your t-shirts after you put them in the wash. And this has worked incredibly well for me. You could also get a liquid thickener for more like screen printing uses, available on Amazon as their official merch. However, I didn't really particularly feel the need to buy it, and if you want like low cost and low commitment, then I would recommend that it's better not to. Like, you don't need it. For the record, I've seen a lot of people use these like spongy type brushes that I picture above being used in the t-shirts. I used them once before, hence the dye already being on the brush itself. Personally, it's actually not for me. I found a better technique in myself using a card that was honestly like broken. I didn't really need to use it anymore. It helped me distribute the ink across the t-shirts much better than this brush ever did, which I think helped me conserve the materials inside the bottle a little bit more. You can test this out for yourself to really see what sticks with you, but personally, this is what I found works for me. Of course, you'll need something to print on. I know that solar fast dye could be used on things like paper as well. I really wanted to show how it looks on a t-shirt though. So for the sake of this project and for this video, get a white t-shirt I think works best. You could try out with different colors. I haven't experimented with that yet, but shows up really well on white. And you'll need like a couple of pieces of paper towel because you want the t-shirt to be damp but not soaked, and so you'll need those towels in order to get rid of any excess dampness after you've applied the ink to the t-shirt. It is recommended that you wear gloves since the solution inside of the dye may be slightly acidic. If you ever get some on yourself, I would just recommend like washing the places that it touched when it comes to skin contact thoroughly, and it wouldn't be as much of a problem. And you could also see pictured here are binder clips, which you will later find out will be used in order to secure together the layers of cardboard, t-shirt, transparency sheets, and the glass panel. And finally, you might want to get an old towel lying around that doesn't have much use anymore for this project. I often find that sometimes I get like the ink dye in places where I never thought it'd really be getting to before, maybe because I spread my ink across the t-shirt pretty aggressively. I don't know. I think it's best to like safely secure yourself anyways, and this has actually like saved me a couple of times, so I highly recommend it for other people too. After you have gathered all of your materials, you're gonna want to select an image. It can be a drawing that you made before, it could be a photograph you've taken. For me, I'm gonna choose the latter. When you're looking at potential possibilities for photos that you might want to print out onto a t-shirt, a tip that I have for you is to look for photos that have the potential to become really high contrast or like have high contrast already, just so that the image quality when it shows up on the t-shirt will be much nicer since it'll be printing in a monochromatic scale of whatever color ink that you choose. After you've chosen your photo, what you're gonna do to it next is turn it monochrome or like grayscale and then inverse it. What I like using because it's convenient is downloading the Polar app on my phone, putting my image through it, and then going through the steps as I explained earlier. Here is a picture of a cat. Not even my cat, it's my neighbor's cat. I found it in my backyard with my camera out already at some point, and I decided to snipe a pretty shot of it. It is the most beautiful cat, and I really liked this image, so I will be using it for my t-shirt. So I'm gonna go ahead and put this picture in the Polar app. Now I'm gonna turn it monochrome. When you're in the app, simply just go to the color tab and you'll see a bar that says saturation. If you pull it all the way down, your image will turn into grayscale. After I've turned my picture into grayscale, what I would do next is save the grayscale image as a new photo. Then go back into the app, open up the grayscale photo that I just saved, and then go to the effects tab. There, you will find the bar that says inverse. Go ahead and pull that all the way down, just as seen in the photo, and then your photo will be inversed. This is the image that will be printed on the transparency sheet. Where there are negatives, the light will pierce through the transparency sheet and make the color show from underneath. Where there are negatives, or the dark spots, sunlight will not be able to penetrate those areas. Therefore, the dye underneath those areas will be not developing. And that's how it's possible to print these images on these t-shirts. As I mentioned earlier, the inverse photo of the grayscaled picture that you chose is the one that you're going to print. For the next step, I'm going to show you how to set your sheets up for the printer. When you buy transparency sheets that could be printed on, the transparency sheets comes with what I like to call a glossy side and a sticky side. The sticky side is made that way so that when it prints in the printer, the ink from the printer will be more likely to be adhesive to the sticky side. That is the sole purpose of what the sticky side is made for. And so that's the side that you want to be facing down when you put in the printer. In order to find out what the sticky or the glossy side, it's really easy. If you just pinch the transparency sheet between your fingers and rub around a little bit, the side that offers the least resistance, the most slippery feeling, is the glossy side. The other side will offer much more resistance, and you'll be able to notice that that's the sticky side. When you finally discerned which side is which, when preparing for my printer, I like to take out all of the paper inside there first. What I've noticed after my first couple of tries is that sometimes, because of the sticky side of the transparency sheets being face down, if you put it on a pile of paper, it's actually likely to grab one of the pieces of paper with it, and then the image will print on the paper instead of the transparency sheet. So in order to ensure myself that the image is being printed on the transparency sheet, I remove all the pieces of paper, and then I stick 2 transparency sheets into the printer. Again, make sure that the sticky side is facing down because that's the side that you want the image to print on. Here's what it looked like when my image came out of the printer. Leave the sticky side up for the ink to dry on top while you work on preparing the rest of the materials. Now we're going to lay out the t-shirt and stick the piece of cardboard in it underneath one of the layers in order to provide stability and from the ink to seeping onto the other side. Remember to place the cardboard in the place where you want the image to be printed, which is shown here where I outline it with my fingers. After I've established where I wanted my image to be printed, I will fold the t-shirt behind the cardboard and crunch it up in the back. Also, while I was doing this, I forgot to lay down my old towel underneath my project, but I remembered to later before I started printing ink on it. After folding the excess cloth behind the t-shirt, what you'll want to do is take a piece of rubber band and tie it around the bunches of the shirt to make sure that it keeps its stability and stays in place while you're spreading the ink over your t-shirt. Before finally putting ink on the t-shirt, you want to put gloves on for safety reasons, as I've mentioned earlier. Also, before I recorded this video, I shook the bottle of dye, as it is recommended in the instructions, to make sure that everything is well mixed. Just because it's not shown here, doesn't mean you should skip it. So please do that, even though it's not shown here. What you'll see next is just a demonstration of how I like to spread my ink and why I like to use the credit card over the sponge brush method. What I like to do is pour the ink in long strokes and brush them out the same way using the credit card. This ensures that my t-shirt will be evenly soaked, but not too dampened. We don't want it to be too wet. And the credit card here helps me more. I feel like Also, it helps flatten out the t-shirt later on for printing, which is actually kind of critical to making sure that shadows of wrinkles don't show up in your t-shirt after you leave it to expose in the sunlight. Press a towel onto your t-shirt after it's been dyed sufficiently. If you feel like it is still too wet, I didn't particularly feel the need to, so I didn't do so here, but use your best judgment. In this clip, you could see with my hands doing it, but when you put the transparency sheet over the inked t-shirt, finally, you want to make it so that the glossy side is in contact with the ink, not the sticky side. If you use the sticky side in contact with the wet ink, when you peel off the transparency sheet, it might take some of the ink that was printed onto the transparency sheet onto the t-shirt and render it non-reusable, even if the print might still work on the t-shirt. So remember to put the glossy side in contact with the ink when you're placing it on the t-shirt. At this point, put a glass panel over it in contact with the sticky side, and now you could secure it with the binder clips, as I've told you earlier. The binder clips will probably block off areas that the sun would come into contact, so I like to put it in places where the sun would have been blocked a lot already, so that it doesn't disrupt the image so much. And next, I'll take it outside, leave it in the sun. The instructions recommend anywhere from 10 to 12 minutes. On the day that I was recording this, it was particularly cloudy, so I left it outside for 15 minutes. I know, or so I think it's done, after I see that the edges have blackened, as you can see in the video. After 15 minutes and I see those signs appearing, I decide to take it inside, and then I could peel it off, and voila! I'm really happy with the way that the image printed out on the t-shirt. If you look at the image, you can finally understand why I highly recommend for you to choose a high contrast photo. It just shows up so much better and offers so much dramatism inside the t-shirt, makes it look way cooler. And now for the final step, you want to throw it in the washer to make sure that all of the undeveloped dye doesn't end up developing later on because it's still stuck to the t-shirt. Just wash it all out. And this is exactly why the Solar Fast wash is highly recommended. It is a formula that is made specifically to do that job better than just tossing it in the washer once. So be sure to buy it and use it. After it comes out of the washer, I don't really need or feel the need to bother throwing it inside the dryer. What I like to do is just hang it dry after it comes right off the washer. Here's what the final results look like. It's really nice. If you're feeling fancy, you could put like cuts into the t-shirts. I think this is a really cool way to also like revamp any of your old clothing. And so I hope that when you watch this video, you enjoyed it. Please consider using solar dye. It's really cool. It yields great results. It's really easy to use, and I hope that my tutorial could offer you some guidance and help in those steps.